Good morning to you today, and welcome to our daily Devo for July the 8th. It is a Wednesday morning. This one is entitled Reach Out to the Outcast, and we have John 4, verses 7 and 9. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" The Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew, and I'm a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?" For Jews do not associate with Samaritans, and that was put in parentheses. The first striking feature of this story is the radical move Jesus makes by initiating a conversation. It doesn't seem unusual to us to see these two talking, but it should. Notice her shock when he's even speaking to her, for the Jews and Samaritans were bitter enemies. The Jews considered the Samaritans racially inferior and heretics. That's the first season she is surprised. That's the first reason she is surprised he's even speaking to her. But on top of that, it was scandalous for a Jewish man to speak to any strange woman in public. What's more, she had come to draw water at noon. Many biblical scholars have pointed out that this is not when women ordinarily came to draw water. They came early in the day when it was not hot yet, so they could have water for the housekeeping chores for the entire day. So why was she there alone in the middle of the day? The answer is she was a moral outcast, a complete outsider. I lost where I was reading there. Many biblical scholars have pointed out that this is not when women ordinarily came to draw water. They came early in the day when it wasn't hot yet, so they could have water for the housekeeping chores for the entire day. So, why was she there alone in the middle of the day? The answer is she was a moral outcast, a complete outsider, even within her own marginalized part of society. And so when Jesus began to speak to her, he is deliberately reaching across almost every significant barrier that people can put up between themselves. In this case, a racial barrier, a cultural barrier, a gender barrier, and a moral barrier, and every convention of the time that he, a religious Jewish male, should have nothing whatsoever to do with her. But he doesn't care. Do you see how radical that is? He reaches right across all the human divides in order to connect to her. She is amazed, and we should be amazed too. I think everybody, no matter where in time you go, in ever since the creation, I believe in every culture there's those people versus us people kind of thing, and we belittle, we judge, we even condemn, which is a dangerous thing to do, based on Matthew 7:1. Judge not, lest you be judged. And so obviously, what Jesus is doing here is setting an example of not being judgmental. He knows all about her. That comes out in the conversation that he has with her. Um, but he comes across as really encouraging and supportive, and wants to do his best to offer her that water that only he can give, and that's part of the conversation as well. We know the story well, the woman at the well, and she'd had five husbands, and he knows the man you're with now is not even a husband, and but he doesn't do it with judgmentalism. He never does that. All the different groups of people that come his way, I mean, Mary Magdalene, she was a prostitute. She's the first one to see Jesus after the resurrection. That's just, I love it. um, he literally reached out to an outcast. She not only had been a prostitute, she had been demon possessed at one point in her life as well. And Jesus was always stopping and caring for people, even though his culture there in Israel often was judgmental. People with leprosy start throwing rocks at him, get them out of here. They're unclean. Um, just that judgmental stuff that is so common to us humans because we cross the line when we start thinking of ourselves more highly, as the scripture passage says we shouldn't do, more highly than we should. And that's pride. And at least two or three times in the scriptures, it says that God is opposed to the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. And maybe that's why Jesus invites those people, come unto me, all you who are weak and heavy laden, I will give you rest. For I am gentle and humble in heart. He sets here again, he sets the picture for us. He sets the pace for us. He sets the example for us and how we should, if we're going to love our neighbors, which is part of the great commandment, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbors as yourself. If we're going to fulfill part two of that, we're going to have to get off the get off the judgment parade, and it's it's not easy. It's something if we feel it's happening to us, it's something that we need to take to the Lord and say, Lord, help me. I want to be like you. I don't want to judge. And when you think of all the people that came to him, now the toughest people for Jesus, the people that he berated the most, and I don't know if I'm using that word properly, berated, it's not a pretty word, but it was the religious leadership, the snobs, the people who had leadership in the temple and who wanted to make sure they did all their good works in such a way that people could see them, know them, and um, and be in awe of the Pharisees and the Sadducees and all those people. Jesus gave them the toughest, the toughest treatment because he knew they were leading others astray. They held the keys to the kingdom, so they thought, and they weren't letting others in. They just wanted it for themselves. That's that's when we don't reach out to others, when we care more about ourselves than we do anybody else. And this encounter with Jesus, and we know the rest of the story. She goes back into town, says, come see this guy. He told me everything about myself. And so out they go, but they don't really believe that Jesus, who is this woman is saying he is, until they get there and they begin to chat with him themselves. They begin to see him and hear him, and they're going, hey, this guy's the real deal. And so they begin to believe in him. And then they turn to her and say, it's not because of you. We've heard and seen him for ourselves. And that's powerful. That is that is the best way to get people to follow Christ. It's not by following you as much as it is you pointing in the direction of the one they need to follow and believe in and love and want to be like. All those kinds of things that are laid out for us in the life of Jesus as he goes through, and the different gospel writers record from their perspective the different things. Some of them wrote out about this story, about this healing, about this interaction, and you put it all together and you find the full plot line of Jesus and his life. And he was always reaching out to the least of these, always reaching out to the least of these. He encouraged them, he held them up, but he didn't do that with the rich and the famous. They didn't. They didn't portray the kind of human that Jesus was wanting and looking for. So he set the example. He reached out to the outcast. His disciples, for the most part, were all ignorant, just fishermen, and he took berating for that. Some of the Pharisees, looked at him and who was following him, and go, he's attracting these people that don't even have an education, or do you know he has a tax collector in his disciples? Do you know that he has these women following him? And there's a couple of them that we got questions about. That was not anywhere near where the Pharisees wanted to go, but they were a bit upset with Jesus for going there and setting that example. As Christians, we should set an example too. We should let people, and not preach ourselves to other people, but just to live our lives out in such a way that they can detect it, they can see it. And, maybe it's a person that you share as a neighbor with another neighbor, okay? Just thinking this up here now. Say I'm living here and I got a neighbor next door, and then I got a neighbor after that. If the neighbor in the middle of the two of us is hard to get along with and not a very pleasant person, but I still treat them in a friendly manner, I still have conversations with them in a friendly manner, then the neighbor on the other side is probably going, really? He talks to that guy? He wants to be nice to that guy? And hopefully, maybe somewhere in that, it sinks in. Oh, that guy is a Christian, isn't he? Yeah, okay, I get it now. That's that love your neighbor thing, isn't it? And that's one of the things that Jesus says we should do that everybody knows. I think, um, but it is reaching out. Tim Keller uses the word out to the outcast, and all I can think of is Matthew 25, and when Jesus does the lamb and goat thing, and he says, I was this and I was that and I was this and you did this for me and you came and visited me and all these kinds of things. And then the question is, well, when did we do that? As often as you did it to the least of these, you've done it to me. And that's a good thing to keep in mind when we're thinking about people that are hard to get along with, people who seem negative all the time, or even people who think that they know more than everybody else. Those can be some of the most annoying people. But that's not how we are to look at them or to judge them. And that's for sure. We reach out to them. If we think there's an issue with them, we reach out to them, and we try and help them. We try and redirect them if we can. If we can. Some people don't want to be redirected, but we put them in our prayers, and maybe the Lord says something to them and brings them closer to Himself again. So that's what we're on the earth for. We're here to have encounters with Jesus that we then share with others, and not just unbelievers, but with other believers in our faith fellowship, our fellowship family, and hopefully it rubs off on them as well. So blessings to you today on this Wednesday. Have a good day.